Hi, I'm Jeff Sankstack, the lead instructor here at BlueFX.net. And I'm here to explain how to work with the Happy Moments slideshow template. So to get started, open up After Effects. If you see this splash screen, you can just open up a project by clicking on Open Project. In my case, I've stored the project on my desktop, so I go to my desktop, I go to my Happy Moments slideshow folder, go inside the project folder, and double-click on the project, the AEP file there. I get a message saying it must be converted from an older version, 11.0.4. That's the CS6 version of After Effects, which is fine. We created this on the CS6 version of After Effects so that you can open it on CS6 or newer. If you have an older version of After Effects, it won't open, but newer versions it will. And you get this message, and it's fine. Just click OK. The project name now has the word converted after it. I suggest you save this now under a name that reflects the images that you're going to put inside it. So go to File, Save As, and save this project in a place that will be associated with the photos you're going to work with in this project. So I'm going to go back to my desktop. I have a thing called Other Assets here. And inside Other Assets, I have my Vacation Photos folder. I don't want to put the project in there because I'm going to import all these files on a folder basis. But I will put it in the folder that's above this one, the Other Assets folder. So I'm going to change the name of this to something like Vacation. And you might want to name it more specifically, like Vacation Summer 2016, something like that. And click Save. And now that new name shows up here. Let's just take a look at this template. It's 1 minute 30 seconds long, and it has room for 40 images. Now you want to work with exactly 40 images in this project. If you have fewer than 40 images, you'll want to duplicate some, have some duplicates scattered amongst the other images, or have some duplicates here at the end. We have this desktop surface here, but there are 5 other surfaces you can choose from. As you go through this, you'll see that you have placeholders for your images. To navigate through this composition, you have these little markers here. The markers are just to help you navigate. You navigate with the J and the K keys. K goes forward by 1 marker, and J goes back 1 marker. So you see we have these placeholders for images, like that. We also have these little places here for additional text. You might want to have a scene name, like the next group of photos will be about some topic. As you go through here, you see that the format for the images is mainly vertical or portrait. There are some horizontal or landscape placeholders, and a few square ones as well. We did this because most people, when they use cell phones, they tend to use the portrait format. But you can put horizontal format here inside the vertical and vice versa. Every single image has a caption. We have an option to switch off all the captions, or you can do them one at a time. You can also turn these all off or turn them all on, whatever you want. Alright, let's get started putting some images into this composition. To do that, you need to import your images. To import something, just go to this blank area here inside the project panel, double click. That opens up the Import File dialog box. I'm already inside the folder that has my images. They're inside this Vacation Photos folder there. If I double click on that, there are the images I want to use. You can import all of them by doing Control or Command A to select all of them and clicking Import. You can select individual images by clicking on one, then Control or Command clicking on other ones. In my case, I put them all in a folder though, for a reason, to make it easier to import all of them at once. So I'm going to back up 1 notch here to Other Assets. So rather than import a bunch of individual photos, I'm going to import the entire folder. So click on the folder and click on Import Folder. And that brings in the folder here inside the project panel and has the name of the file folder I used before, and then here are the images inside that folder. Now obviously I'm not working with 40 images here, I just want to work with a few to show you how to work with these guys. So let's start off by adding an image to the first placeholder there, 01. So I'm going to navigate the 01. I can drag this or use the J key to get there. It's going to look like this, but to put the image there I need to open up that particular composition. So to go to that composition, I go to the UChange folder here. If it's not open, if it looks like this, just click on the disclosure triangle and then open up images by clicking on that and double click on image 01. I want to put my image here inside this placeholder. So I scroll on down here by dragging the scroll bar here. Here are my images. I can preview them by clicking on them one at a time. There's that one. I want to get a vertical format one like that. So I just take that and drag it down to this composition by just clicking and dragging that. I can put it above the 01 layer or below. Just I need to put it above this bottom layer there. Now the 01 is still there. I can get rid of that by just turning off the eyeball here, turning off the visibility. Now the image is bigger than the size allotted. To fix that I need to change the scale of the image. So I can take this handle here and start dragging it, but obviously that changes the proportions, right? Well, if after you start moving it, you press the Shift key, that constrains the proportions. And even if you make a mistake like this and come back later and do it again, holding the Shift key will put it back to the original proportion. Now I can take it down to this size and have some white around it like that. I can take a look at that by going back to the main comp, going back to the 0, 1 spot there, and that's how that will look. So it's not terrible that you've got some white there. It looks kind of normal actually. But if you want to fill the frame, you can do that. So I go back to the image here, and I just make sure that it's active like this. If it's like this, and you don't see any bounding box, you click on it, and it adds the bounding box around it like that. And if I want to get a bigger view of this, I go down to this little percentage there and change that from the current 25% to fit. There you go. Now I drag this again, hold on the Shift key to constrain the proportions, have it fit the area like that. I want to drag this around a bit. Notice I get these little boxes here. That's because I have snapping turned on. That helps kind of align things. So if I drag this to the bottom here like this, it'll snap to the corner like that. I think I like the idea of having more sky, so let's drag it down like so. And now that works for me, so I go back to the main comp to see that. Alright, that's good. Let's move along and do a horizontal format one. So I'll go down here and press the K key a few times till we get to horizontal format, which is number 6. So I open up number 6 by going up to here, double clicking on 6. I want to get a horizontal format image for that one, so I scroll on down here. I'll drag this down right above the T this time. It's covering up the text image there, 06, but I can still turn it off by clicking the eyeball just to be safe. But it's fine the way it is now. Again, this is bigger than the space allotted. If I click on one of the bounding box handles here, drag it around, hold on the Shift key to constrain proportions and get it like that. I can move it left or right. Again, it's going to snap. It snaps to the area where you're closest to. Wherever you're close to that little corner, it will snap to that corner. Over here, it'll snap to that corner. Or you just move it around like so. And that works for me. It's a little bit too short, so I'm going to make it just bigger so it fits the whole area there. Drag it, hold on the Shift key. There we go, it's better. Go back to main, and you'll see how that shows up there as well. Now what happens if you have a horizontal landscape format that you want to put inside a vertical format or a portrait format placeholder? Well, let's go to number 5 here. Scroll up a bit, double click on 5. I want to put a horizontal format image there, a landscape format image. Scroll down. There's a good one there. Pretty wide there. Drag that down on top of the text. And obviously this is a huge picture relative to the space allotted. Drag that in like this. Hold on the Shift key to constrain the proportions. And we can go like that. And take a look at how that looks back in the main comp, number 5 here. So I'll just navigate back one notch here like that. You can see how that shows up there with that white space on it. Or we can go back to number 5 here. And I can expand it by just dragging it out like this, holding on the Shift key to constrain the proportions again. And then I can slide it left or right to decide what area I want to preserve, basically. What area I want to show. So perhaps we'll do that. This is the Grand Canyon for anyone who's interested. You can pull that down a little bit like that and go back to the main comp and see how that shows up over there. If you need to rotate an image, I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's go back to image 5 here, click on that. I'm going to turn off visibility for this top layer for the time being and go get a different image. That's this one here, which is stored here on its side. Just drag that one down to the comp above this picture. And it's way bigger than this placeholder, so I'll just drag it in, hold on the Shift key to constrain it. You can see it needs to be rotated. To do that, I go to the rotation tool, which is this guy right there. Click on that. If I hover outside it, it won't work, but if I go inside the image and drag, it'll start rotating. I want it to be exactly up and down, right? Exactly vertical. To do that, I hold on the Shift key as I move this. To do that, I hold on the Shift key as I move this around, and it goes in 45-degree increments. To do that, I hold on the Shift key as I move this around, and it goes in 45-degree increments. And there you go. Now it's straight up and down vertical. And I can adjust the size here by going back to the selection tool and making that fit. Hold on the Shift key to get the proportions right like that and move it around as much as I need to. That's how you rotate an image. I'm going to delete that and go back to the original image by turning on its eyeball and going back to the main comp. So that's how you can put images in that don't fit the formatting of these various placeholders. Now what about the captions here? This place text 0, 1, 2, 3. That's relatively easy to fix. Just going up here. You can close down the images folder there and go to the texts folder, open that up. We have additional text. That's the stuff down here, those little pieces of paper. We'll do that in a second. Then you have these image labels here that fit these things here. So I'll go back to, let's say, image label 5 there. Double click on that. And you have 3 layers here. The top one is the one that you want to fix. So you just double click on that layer and it turns red. That indicates that you can type anything there now that'll replace whatever is there. You can change the font, you can change the font type, you can change the font size over here. But generally, if you keep this font and that size, it'll work really well. So I'll say Grand Canyon. Now I'll go back to the main comp to show you what that looks like. Shows up like that down there. If you don't want to have any of these little paperclip captions, you can turn them all off or turn them all on. And you do that here inside the control layer. Click on the control layer. And you need to open up the Effect Controls panel. Now in the default standard workspace that I'm in now, the Effect Controls panel is not visible. So to get the Effect Controls panel open, just go to Window. Down here is Effect Controls here. Click on that. It opens it up here in this area. You notice there are 5 things that you can control with this layer here. The one I'm interested in now is the clip notes. You open that up. You can turn off the checkbox here and turn off all the clip notes. So they're either all on or all off. The same is true for the additional text here. Click on that. I can turn them all off or all on. They're all off now. Now they're all on. So we'll leave that one on for the time being. And we'll talk about these other things in a moment. So I'm going to go back to the project panel here. So now I want to go back over here and change the additional text one. So I double click on that. I'll just, let's say, change this to something about the next scene. So you double click on the layer to make that red. So I'll just start typing here. To make a carriage return, just press enter and then keep on typing like that. Go back to main and you'll see how that shows up there like that. And basically sets up the next set of shots if you want to do it that way. You can change the intro and the outro. So I'm going to go back to the beginning here. This intro has an orange background with text or a logo on it. To change that, I go up here, close that down, and I see the intro comp right there. Double click on that. I can either double click on this and put in new text, or I can add a logo to it. I'm going to import a logo by double clicking here. I have this little logo here. Double click on that. And I'll drag that above the text layer. And I'll turn off the text layer by clicking the eyeball. I want to change the size of this. Right now I've got my type tool selected, that little bar there. So I go back up to the selection tool there, click on that. And now I can change the size of this. Again, control the proportions by holding down the shift key and bring that in like that. Let's take a look at this inside the main comp. I think the logo on the orange background does not go that well. The orange background should be changed. So we do that again by making the control layer active. Go to the Effect Controls panel like that. And go to the intro color. Click on the disclosure triangle, click on the color swatch, and pick a color that you like. In this case, I'm just going to go with white, maybe a little light gray like that. Click OK, and there we have that one. And you do the same for the outro. Now I can't see the outro here because it goes to 40, but I just changed the view down here. I can slide it to the left to zoom out. Click over here, and we'll get a sense of how the outro looks. Again, it's orange background with text or logo. So you have the same options there. Go back to the project panel, double click on outro, and you can either change the text or add a logo there. And as before, you can go back to the main comp, click on the control layer, go to Effect Controls, and go to the outro color as well. Now there's one other option here in the control layer, camera depth of field. You can't see that it says depth of field. If I pull to the right, you'll see that it says depth of field like that. Open this up. It allows for a blurred background. Now it's a blurred background throughout as you go through this. Little guys off in the distance will be blurred if I click on the checkbox. But that blur at the end is on purpose. So the depth of field is as you move through this like this, everything else is out of focus except for the item that you're focusing on at that particular moment. Like in this case, we're working on image 30, so it's going to be in focus, but other guys will be out of focus. That's the camera depth of field. But at the end here, that blur at the end is on purpose, just to have this thing highlighted like that. So you can turn off the depth of field by unchecking it. And that's the default view. Everything's in focus the way we set this up. The one additional option that you can change is the background, the desktop, the thing on which these images reside. And to do that, I go back to the project panel, and I go on down to the BG Textures comp. I double click on that. And there are 5 additional backgrounds to the one that's already showing. To see them, you can just kind of click through them. I'm going to turn this one off and start at the bottom and work my way up. The one that's on top is the one that will show up on the finished project, but you can click through these and take a look at them. These are all the backgrounds or desktops on which those images will lie. This is the one that's the default. There you go. I'm going to go back to the default here and turn off these other eyeballs. They won't get in the way, but it's best just to get them turned off. So this is the one we started with. This is the one we'll end up with. I'll close this comp down and go back to the main comp here. If you want to add music to your comp, you can. Go back to the project panel here, and you can import a music file. I'm going to double click here. I have a music file. The music that we used in the demonstration project for this is called These Are the Best Days. Just double click on that to import it. And to add music, just drag it down to the comp here like this, at the bottom or anywhere. If you want to preview the music, I'm going to move the current time indicator over here. Just press the decimal key on your numeric keypad. Like that. I'm pressing the decimal key again to stop it, or the space bar to stop it. We don't own the rights to distribute that music, so we can't give it to you as part of this project. If you want to get that, we provided a link for you. The link is inside the Happy Moments folder, inside the README text. The link is right there. So if you go there, you'll see this, and you can download this file if you want to. But you get a one-use license for $19. There are other fees as well, depending on what you want to use, if you want to use it for more projects than just one. So that's what we did in this particular case. Although you can use any music that you want. We just happen to use that particular one. Now if you want to fade the music out at the end, let's say, I'll show you how to do that. So let's say you want the music to fade here and it goes beyond the length of your composition. Just open this up, open up audio, and click on this audio levels stopwatch there to turn on keyframes for that. Go forward a little ways farther to the end, and then just drag this thing that says 0 dB. 0 dB means the original level of the audio, not zero, not silence. Just click on that and drag it to the left until it gets to -48, and that'll be essentially silent as it fades away. So that's how you do that. Now you're ready to export this composition as a video file. There are many ways to do that. I'm going to show you what I would consider to be the standardized way to do this. So you make sure that your comp is active. It's got a blue border around it. Go to Composition, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. The Adobe Media Encoder is a separate program that runs separately parallel to After Effects, so you can go back to After Effects and work while this thing is working. When it opens, you're going to see your comp right here. I suggest that you select the settings that I have here. These are basically universal settings. If you go over to this first drop-down list here, you select H.264. You could choose other video file formats here if you want, but H.264, which makes MP4 files, is a good standardized way to make videos. So click H.264. And over here you have these many presets, many presets. But just take the first one, match source high bit rate. That'll give you a really high quality output. Then you click on this link here, this hot link, and you need to tell the media encoder where you want to store this file. So I recommend you put it with the images. So I'm going to go back to my desktop, go to my other assets folder, and here are the images right there, open that up. I recommend you put it in that folder. Now it's called 00 main. You can call it whatever you want. I'll call this vacation slides. Like that. Click Save. And then when you're ready, you just click on this little green arrow there, and it will start the queue, as it's called. It'll render out that file. It takes a while to do that. I'm not going to do that now because it does take a while, but that's the process to export your project. Now if you have more than 40 images, here's what you do. You render out the project like that, and then you come back into your project here that you've saved, and then replace images here at the end with the number of images you want to add. So if you want to add, let's say, 10 more images, you start at number 31 and work through 31 through 40 and replace it. And then you take this work area bar, it's called, this little thing with the blue things at the end. Take your work area bar and pull it just before, let's say, 30 like that, right around there, because you're going to save this area here. And then export this, and it will export only that part of it. When you export it, the same process you did before, you go up to Composition, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue, and this time name it like Vacation Part 2. And then once you've done that, then you need to bring those two files into After Effects. So I'll show you a brief example of that. I'll double click on this area here to bring in those two files. I have these two files here that are very simple. They are not full slideshows. They're just ways to show you how this works. So I select both of them by clicking on one and Controller Command clicking on the other and clicking Import. With the two of them active like that, I want to create a new comp with both of them. Now if they weren't active for some reason, you click on one and Controller Command click on the other one. And now drag them down to the new comp icon. That's this thing right down here. Drag it down to the new comp icon like that. You get the little blue indicator there. Let it go. And now you get this dialog box, New Composition from Selection. You want to make a single composition. You don't need to worry about the options here. You want to sequence the layers, meaning one after the other. You want them to overlap a little bit because you want to have a cross dissolve. The default duration is a second. I've already changed this to 10 frames, which is a third of a second. The transition is default. It's a cross dissolve from the top to the bottom, the front to the back. Click OK. And that puts them on like this. And what's going to happen is that this first one will get to the end, the 40th image, and then we'll cross dissolve to wherever it is you're starting the next group. In my case, I was starting it with 26. And then it'll continue. So there'll be this little cross dissolve as you continue, and that way you can go right to the end that you did before. So that way you get the full end here, the full start, this little moment where you cross dissolve from the end of this thing, but not the real end where you see the outro slide, but this end, the 40th image. Then you cross dissolve to this one here and start over again till you get to the end like that. So there you go. That's how you use the Happy Moments slideshow template.